Sure.
All right, we're good. So this is episode 6, I believe. I could be wrong. We got Isabella Garcia here. On News 12, they called her, what did they call her, Coach? Garcia the Grappler, was it?
Yes, sir.
Garcia the Grappler. So we've been trying not to take notes. I've been trying not to take notes going in to make it more organic and us just talking. But Izzy's credentials are so good and plentiful that I needed to write them down so I wouldn't forget anything. So I'm going to read off. So the people that are watching, most of you probably know Izzy, but if you don't, maybe some of the alumni and stuff, they could get a background of Isabella. So I'll start off with the biggest one. I don't know why I wrote that first, but Isabella's a 3-time All-State wrestler, state champ. In the female division because she wrestled in the boys. We'll get to that as well. 8th at the Gotham tournament, which had competitors from Mexico, France, Spain, all over the globe. And that was her junior year. I think she would have done better there this year. Top 12 at Fargo. That's a national tournament. So she was top 12 in the country in her weight class. Also junior year, hopefully COVID does not stop her from competing there this year, but it does not look good. But if she goes, I think she does better than top 12. Now we're with the boys season, 2-time All-League, 2-time captain, 2-time section qualifier, county finalist, Westchester County finalist this year, 30-plus wins this year, Con Ed Award winner, which we didn't talk about with Erin Walk. She's our second recipient. So she was there. News 12 feature athlete of the week or the month. I don't know what it was, but they did a nice piece on her. You guys could look that up. Another one that I'm not sure if Izzy's sure about, but me and Coach were talking about yesterday because Pete Zimmerman, that's why we were talking about that. Pete Zimmerman emailed us, and then Jamie emailed us later in the day, letting us know that Izzy won the Julius D'Angelo Award, which is presented to and this is all of Section 1, right? So nothing to do with just male or female or whatever. This is the Section 1 wrestlers. Is presented a senior athlete who exemplifies the meaning of student athlete, a student that not only made an impact on the mat, but the classroom and the community. So Izzy, congratulations, you won that. I'm sure you probably—
Thanks. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. We talked about it yesterday. Coach DeBellis actually said, why don't you bring it up in the interview? I'm like, that's a good idea. So there you go. I'll send you the link later for the Journal News article. And then last but not least, I mean, there's more we could talk about, but, maybe most importantly, other than Izzy being a really good kid, she has a 4.0 GPA. That's if you guys are not good at school like me, that's the best you could do. Coach, were you about to say something? I see you.
Yeah, well, no, because you are good at school because you're an excellent teacher, number one.
Well,
Number two, we forgot that Izzy was also named most outstanding wrestler at the Polling Invitational.
First woman champ there and most outstanding wrestler. Unbelievable tournament. I believe 5-0 there. And not a close match.
4 pins?
One major. 4 pins, one major. Yep. She made, and the one person she majored was the only other female in the bracket. So there you go for girls wrestling. Pretty interesting. So to start the interview, like I said earlier to you, I know this answer, but this is good for everybody else to hear, and a good way for us to start. What got you into wrestling in the first place?
So I did karate since I was maybe 7, so that's 11 years now. And when I went into high school, my karate instructor suggested I try wrestling because I liked the ground fighting that we did. I liked everything, but I liked ground fighting. So I tried it, and I thought it was fun. So I just kept doing it.
That's awesome. Coach, do you remember when Izzy first came into the room there started wrestling?
Yeah, as a freshman.
Yeah.
You didn't do modified, right?
For second, right? I think she showed up a couple times for modified, if I recall.
Yeah, I showed up a little bit, but I didn't really do much there.
So I vaguely remember you coming in and out at that time. I'll say when Izzy started wrestling, we've talked about this before, right? Like, I like to think we have a very open team with anything, whether you're a female or, whatever, you could come wrestle, you come wrestle and we stayed with that. When Izzy came on as a freshman, maybe 2 or so years ago, there was another girl that wrestled, nice kid, good kid, whatever. She never developed the love for wrestling like Izzy developed, right? So that was in the back of my mind when Izzy came out. I'm like, is she, this is really tough, and we hold our wrestlers very accountable. So is she going to be able to take it? Is she going to be able to take this? And I think in the beginning I caught myself maybe trying to treat you a little easier than the boys, and things of that nature, which now if I talk to Izzy now about that, she'd look at me like, are you out of your mind? Don't ever treat me different. And, but you know, a young freshman comes on, I'm not used to this, right? We're open people, but as a coach, we never had a girl come and be that serious. So it was a different thing. Right. And, I'm curious of Izzy, your perspective of the team. Well, you get your sophomore year, you weren't there yet either, but you were really in there with the team. Your perspective of the team and the atmosphere for you, maybe nerves or whatever, as a freshman, being on there with Sassos and Ferreira and Aaron and all those guys. What was your mindset when you kind of walked into the room?
Well, the team was always really good about being super inclusive. I never felt like I didn't belong or anything. I do think I did like kind of take advantage of the fact that you might have been taking it a little bit easier on me in freshman year, but I do think I grew out of that. But the team was really good. Although I was that kind of person that was ready to fight you, I guess. I went into the room thinking that I was gonna have to fight for my to be allowed to wrestle or at least prove that I was allowed to be there. So I remember I was ready to fight Matt because he was the first person I ran into. I was ready to argue with him, I'm allowed to be here, but there was never any reason to feel that way. And they were always really welcoming, and I don't know, I just love the team. So
well, thank God for you, because it is true. There is a stigma, right, with girls wrestling with the boys, and it shouldn't even. First of all, it shouldn't be a stigma. Second of all, it shouldn't be even a thing, right? Girls should have their own team, and Izzy would be. Izzy got to develop with the boys, and I don't know if I'll let her speak on it, but I don't know if you would trade those experiences because it molded you into who you are. But it's kind of a shame that you would have to have that, and it's not your fault, but that you would have to have that mindset coming in, I'm ready to argue for my position here on this team because I belong just as much as you. And it was great. I'm great that your experience was that you didn't have to do that, right? But society's kind of making us think all right, I'm going to do this, and this is going to be looked at like that. And I just don't think that's the right way to look at things, Do you remember it, Coach, a little bit when she first was there and the beginning phases kind of?
Yeah, Izzy would be kind of there on the outskirts a little bit, but then when she started as a sophomore and especially as a junior, she wasn't staying in the shadows anymore. She was coming out, and honestly, she led the team vocally. Her voice came out this year.
That was awesome.
Those kids jumped when Izzy said, "Let's go, it's time to go." They jumped and they were right at it.
Well, there was a couple of times where Izzy actually said the words, "Guys, get up! Are you kidding me?" And every time she would say something like that, I'd be so happy. I'd be like, "Yeah, Izzy, get up!" Now I'm gonna ask you two. I bet you both know, and Izzy, I would be shocked if she doesn't. Do you remember the first match that she won on varsity?
Yes.
Do you? Is
Cornwall?
Yeah.
Cornwall was a girl. What was that girl's name? She was pretty tough. We ended up actually seeing her again, I think. Was she at States? Girl States?
I don't actually remember. I just remember that
It was a good match.
Sully was supposed to wrestle that match, but it was another girl, so I got to wrestle for one.
But then after that, go ahead, Coach. I'm sorry.
And you ended up. I lived in Newburgh at the time, and you ended up in the newspaper in Cornwall that weekend. I think I brought that copy. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
You I think brought the reporter to her too. You were like, "This is Izzy." I remember the whole exchange.
I used to work at Cornwall, so Ken Cashman, the reporter there, he used to do articles about my class all the time. He was a great guy, local reporter, and he also did the Star Spangled Banner in the beginning of the tournament. I don't know if you remember.
That's him. He does that.
Yeah,
he's really
great
good.
Guy. Ken Cashman's a great guy.
Anyway, so
you're not impressed. You're not impressed. I know when you're not impressed.
He's no Whitney Houston, and he's no Isabella Garcia, so I could care less, to be honest. If he interviews Izzy, that's one thing, but whatever. Anyway, the second win, which I think might have been more, maybe, I don't want to say meaningful, because every match you should go in there looking to win, right? Or looking to beat, like David Schreiber said, and me and Coach Isabella say, and Izzy's probably said herself before, you're always looking to be the best version of yourself. So you're always trying to do your best, but I thought there was a little specialness in her sophomore year when she beat that East Ramapo kid. I think that was the only other win she had her sophomore year. And the kid ended up getting disqualified because not because he did anything, wrong. He just kept clasping and he got DQ'd. But I remember yesterday, one, Izzy was winning the match anyways. She was just out wrestling them. And two, the crowd. We get a pretty decent crowd for wrestling. We could have a better crowd, but we get a pretty decent crowd. And they were so behind Izzy, and it was so cool. And I remember me and you just losing our minds too. And it was like, I think we were winning the dual meet probably like 60-6 at the time. It wasn't a close match, right? But it was Izzy. And at that point, as a sophomore, I think we started to realize, and as a freshman, you were there. But your sophomore year, you start to really buy in and start working. And I'm like, I wanted that win for her bad. You know what I mean? And she wanted that win for her bad. And you wanted that win for her bad. And I don't know, as you remember that match and like the crowd getting behind you and, all of that?
Yeah, actually, I really remember my teammates more than the crowd just screaming. And I think Matho was actually like on the mat, like yelling.
It's awesome.
Josh, man,
it was great.
It's so cool too to think about, like, Izzy. I think me and you, DeBells, have talked to Izzy about this before, but you kind of ended the era a little bit, where I consider you in that, and we'll talk more about how I consider you in that Jacob Madden era, Aaron category. But like that, to me, you were on those teams. You were a freshman with guys like Joe Sasso and Nadler. You like bridged two generations together, kind of. So it's kind of interesting to see, going forward, watching the guys like Michael and Oliver step up, and the young guys like Vinny and, Tommy and whoever, fill into their spots and as we move. But, Izzy's seen it all. Like Izzy's been around for, Joe Sasso was the #1 seed in the section tournament that year, her freshman year. She was around that. And then, Jacob being a state finalist and Aaron Walk winning a title and Matt being a 2-time section champ. And Matt's senior year, Izzy being his predominant workout partner. And I don't know, it's pretty crazy how she went through. Do you remember, you told me this before, and I don't know if your answer is going to be different because there's so many ways it could go, but do you remember the moment when you decided, like, you're with these guys, right, that are doing pretty well, when you wanted to be not just a wrestler, but you wanted to be a successful wrestler, you wanted to take it to the next level? Do you remember when that kind of happened?
Yeah, it was like throughout sophomore year. It was definitely sophomore year, but it was a little bit Oswego that year. It was the first year I went to Oswego, and I didn't do well, but it was a lot of fun, and I kind of realized that I really loved it. And then Girls States that year, and I took 5th, and it was really cool.
I thought that was the one.
So,
yeah. Coach, do you remember? I don't know. I don't know how to word this, but I want both of us to put our input here on Izzy because, I've said it to Izzy, and I'll say it on this video too. Izzy is one of the people that I'm most proud of that we ever coached. And I very much put her in the category, and we talked about it with Aaron, right? Who's statistically, I think, without a question, the best wrestler in Greeley history, over 100 wins, New York State champion, what he did at that tournament. But Izzy didn't have, Izzy did, with her opportunities, she did unbelievable, right? If it was just straight up girls wrestling, she might have been a 4-time state champ for all we know, right? Yeah. So when we talk about who's walking through those halls, she's one of the best Greeley wrestlers to ever walk through those
100%
through those halls. But just watching her progression's been unbelievable. I kind of lost where I was going with that, but you jump in there, D, with her kind of turning the corner.
Isabella looks so different this year. I mean, throughout the year she progressed every week. It was like, wow, look at, like, you watched her drill. And she was the best driller in the room. She hit her moves solid, good setups, good finishes all the time. And she worked from the moment she got there to the moment we left. And her drive was unbelievable. It was,
If you want to hear a good saying, you both probably will like this one. I heard it today. I study up on this stuff. I was listening to a Tom Ryan interview today. So I had my you guys know the notepad on your phone. You could like pull your notepad out. And I was just jotting notes things he was saying that like resonated with me, right? And he said something today, and it made me think of Izzy. So I'm like, I'm gonna bring that up to Izzy. And he said, success leaves clues. Success leaves clues of kind of how you get there. And Izzy, if you look at Izzy, she left clues of how she got to where she was. Like you said, she drilled hard. Her junior year, her senior year, everything extra would always be there before practice, would always be there after practice. Leading up to sectionals, I had her drilling with Alex a lot. And she wasn't just going through the motions, right? As you were like really trying to figure out what you were doing, and you were hitting it with authority and purpose. And I want to kind of maybe get into the fact of like, where do you think your drive, forget that you love wrestling, because that's one thing, right? And that's probably part of your drive. But where do you think, because I know your parents really well, I know there's a lot that probably go into you. Where's that drive come from? Because you're hungrier than the average person.
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I just want to be better, I guess. I guess it's mostly just that. I just want to be better than I was before, and I want to keep getting better every time I go to practice, come out just a little bit better. And just in general, I just want to get better a little bit better all the time.
How did you balance the schoolwork, being a 4.0 student, being in multiple clubs, and the wrestling? Because it's a huge time commitment, and we see a lot of our athletes will say, "Well, I can't do it, coach, because my grades will suffer." But your grades didn't suffer. Aaron's grades didn't suffer, and you guys were the most committed. So how do you balance that?
Well, one thing that definitely helped was since we started at 3:30 instead of right after school, I would use that time right before practice to do my schoolwork. I didn't do that as much in senior year because I felt like I should be in the room and make sure the guys are doing the right thing. But I would do that. I would use that time to do schoolwork, and then when you get home, shower, eat, and then back to schoolwork. So
Yeah.
She said in her interview, I don't know if it was the News 12 one or the Con Ed Award one, that she laughed, and somebody asked her, how do you get all this stuff done? And Izzy laughed and was like, I wish there was a little bit more time in the day.
Yeah,
She's out there working. She doesn't stop. And I love that about Izzy. And I love that about any of our competitors that came through, whether they were super successful like Izzy is or they weren't. That taste for wanting to work, right? Wanting to get the job done inspires me. Right? I love it. It makes me a better coach. It makes the coach develops a better coach. It's great. And it's just so funny. This thought it might be kind of bouncing around a little bit, but this just popped in my head a little. It's so funny to think about. Izzy walking in as a freshman, a little, we're not sure how she's going to do here. And she wasn't sure, but she was ready to fight for it. And, all these things to this year when teams like Fox Lane would come in scrimmage. There was one practice, and I'll never forget this. And she might probably doesn't even remember because it's so second nature for Izzy. Fox Lane was there. AJ Kovacs and Matt Kelly were there. So in that room alone, you had 4 state qualifiers. 5. Nino, Quincy and Hoffman, Matt Kelly, and AJ Kovacs. You had 4 all-state wrestlers and 3 New York state finalists and 2 New York State champs in that room, right? And Izzy, being that I was at Greeley, being the captain at Greeley, I walked in the room and I said, Izzy, get him warmed up with those guys in the room, right? Izzy didn't bat an eye, got him warmed up. And guys like AJ and Matt Kelly respected her just as they would respect any captain because she earned that respect through her 4 years of, getting after it. And I just think, we talked about with Bing Bang, but the trajectory is crazy. And do you remember any more? I mean, we'll talk more about your junior and sophomore year. I didn't mean to skip over them, but do you remember any moments of wow, I really earned this respect? Like people are looking at me a little differently now,
I mean, I felt that when teams would come in and there would, like you were saying, there would be people with a lot better credentials than I did. And I still ran warm up and they still listened to me. So,
I mean,
and the guys on the team, they didn't question me, which I really appreciated. They listened every time I ran warm up.
You ruled with an iron fist.
Well, they had to, though. And that's why I used that example I said, because the Greeley guys are great. And like we talked about, Michael and Oliver made huge jumps this year. Vinny and Tommy and some of these guys as young guys. And Diego Weiss showed, and Josh Hammonds, who never wrestled before, they kept getting better and better. But, you were good. You were the best. You were the best. You were winning tournaments. You had these wins. You were the closest to placing at sectionals. They had to look up to you. But for a guy like AJ and Matt Kelly to come in the room, 2 New York State champions, and still show you that same respect, that says something about you. That says something about they know who you are. They know how hard you work. They know what you've done. They know the path that you had to take to get to where you were. And even though you still you definitely rule with an iron fist, but you weren't a loud person. You're very nice and whatever. But they still knew to respect you, and I think that really has a lot to do with what you accomplished. I think people, respect breeds respect. You're respected out there. I think that's a point that needs to get across.
Respected and loved. Because when we go to any gym, when Izzy was wrestling, I mean, I don't know if a lot of times when we wrestle, you don't hear the crowd. You don't hear anybody. You're kind of locked into the zone. But do you remember some of those times, like at divisionals and, when you started, like on a comeback trail, you'd be down a couple points and then come back.
County semis this year, the place erupted when she beat the kid from New Rochelle. And Schreiber was telling me, David Schreiber, like you said, everybody's a big fan. David Schreiber was like, I went to help because I saw nobody was there with you. And then next thing you know, I was just cheering like a fan, because it's so exciting watching her fight, Do you remember those moments, like coming back and fighting and being in those type of matches?
Yeah. I definitely remember the like people yelling really loud. Nothing like in particular, like specific, just like it got really loud sometimes.
People love it. When you were at Pearl River this year, remember Pearl River?
Yeah.
The guy was like punching you in the face pretty much. And that was hard for us coaches. Me and coach would sit there and be like, we couldn't treat you any differently. So if you got cross-faced hard, we would just look at each other and be like, oh, no.
There's been times where I've said to Coach Isabella, like, I got to treat Izzy the same as everybody else, but if that guy cross-faces her one more time like that.
It was weird. It was weird. Yeah, because, I mean, if it was the, some of the other guys, like, so come on, let's just toughen up. They cross-faced Izzy, boy. We took it personal.
Coach, can I just add in there, though, once in a blue moon, it didn't happen too often because our section, I feel like, is pretty inclusive, too, and they understood Izzy was tough, so they gave her the respect that needed to be given. But once in a while, a guy would get a little extra chippy with her because she wouldn't back down. And I remember a couple of times saying in the match, just to try and get in the other kid's head a little bit, he's doing that because he can't beat you, Izzy, or he's doing that because he can't score another takedown, just to try to get him to kind of, like, go over the edge. But it did happen a couple of times because she was that person that would just keep coming. She wouldn't stop.
Why, Izzy? Why? What gave you that drive to just keep fighting? Even if you lost by a point, you were still fighting till the end. You
Always.
Never hung your head. You never let your hips collapse on the mat. Why?
I mean, if I don't do the best that I can, then, like, I just didn't reach what I wanted to reach. If I do the best that I can and I don't reach my goals, I can live with that. But if I don't do the best that I can, like, then, like, that's not what I want to do.
And you certainly can live with yourself because as people that are in the room with you, there's never been anybody that worked harder. There's people that probably worked on the same level as you, like a Matt, Jacob, and Aaron are right up there, right? But I wouldn't say they worked harder. You worked just as hard. And I wanted to bring up Alex yesterday in the interview, which I ended up getting rid of because all I did was blab the whole time. And we're going to do it again with Alex but we're going to talk about it because Izzy had to get over her mental hump, right, of confidence. But instead of being scared of having a confidence issue, she looked herself in the mirror and said, hey, I have a confidence issue with wrestling. I need to fix it, right? That's what a good wrestler does. I could easily believe that was a great interview yesterday, right? And said, hey, let's run with it, but we could do better. So I want to do better. And it kind of feeds into what Izzy said just now, right? But Alex brought up the fact, we asked Alex what his favorite coaching moment was, and it was at the Waterway Duel, some kid was losing a match and the kid was being like extra physical with him, whatever. And then all of a sudden the kid came back and pinned him. And that, to me, that says a lot about Alex too, because it's not like a primetime match either. It wasn't like a big thing. It was just something that made him feel good, right? A guy coming back and fighting. And in my head, Alex had a lot to do with your development, but he was the modified coach. He wasn't at a lot of our matches, right? So in my head, I could think off the top of my head about 10 to 15 matches at least where you were in a hole and you came back and won. And I'm just curious of because I think I know how I would think. I'm sure Coach Abelson would know how he would think in these situations. But when you're down 7-2, 6-3 at Pearl River, I think it was 8-1 in the third or something like in the third period, something like that. What is your thought process? And I don't want to steal this question because David Schreiber asked me the same question to ask you. So this is Schreiber's question, but I love it. What is your thought process when you're in a hole like that in the third period, whether you're down by 5 or 6? What are you thinking in those moments?
Well, I actually have had times during those moments where I'm like, can I actually do this? There was one match in particular that I thought, like, I don't know if I can actually do this. And then I did it, and it was fine. But um, I guess, like, it's not over until it's over, and just keep going and keep going and keep going, and just if there's still time on the clock, you can still do something. So you might as well try something, and if it doesn't work, it didn't work. But, like, I guess you gotta just keep going until the time runs out, until they stop you. I guess that was my thought process. I don't really know.
Is it your body language? You could see in your body language, and coaches, coach and I could see two wrestlers wrestling. You could tell somebody, who's got the better body language. Do you think that body language played into your success? Because you never looked down and out. No. Now, you would come off the mat. If you lost a match, and we would say, you wrestled great, and you'd say, I wanted to win. I'm sorry, I wanted to win that match. And it would always break my heart. Every time you said that, I'd be like, I know. You did the best you could at that moment. And, but you always carried yourself in a positive manner. Do you think that played into your success?
Yeah. I think body language does play a part in it. Because if you go on the mat and you look like really like not confident, then they're gonna think that that it's gonna be an easy match. And because I'm a girl, sometimes people do think that it's gonna be an easy match just because I'm a girl. So I don't want to. I always I make an effort to just at least pretend I'm confident, even if I'm not feeling it.
Fake it until you make it. I like it.
That's Coach Isabel's famous line.
Do you ever remember a point? I mean, we've seen it a million times with you, but do you ever remember a point where you broke them? Like because they would always come out super, super tough, right? They would always hammer you, but then they would wear down. You would wear them down. You would wear them down, and then they would quit. Did you remember? Did you ever feel that? Did you ever feel them break?
I mean, I think I have, but I can't remember anything off the top of my head.
Probably happened about 20 times this year.
Something I do remember, though, is at Oswego last year.
I was going to bring that story up, too. Go ahead, though.
When we I'm actually probably thinking of a different story than yours, but I think I know what you're thinking of. When we were doing the exhibition matches on the second day, there was one of the kids that I was going to wrestle came up to me and kept asked me like my record, and was like doing like the playing with the straps and everything, and like was telling me like his record and everything. And I was just like, okay, cool. And then I pinned him. It was cool.
So wait, can I jump in on that story? Because what story you think I'm thinking about of Oswego?
The one where I didn't want to get pinned and I was bridging for a whole minute.
But I don't know. Now I'm getting confused if that was the same match. But there was a match where we were losing like 14-1 or 14-0, and it was late in the match, and you threw this kid. You launched him at the end of the match, and you ended up losing. But a lot of people that would be down like 14-0 would be like, maybe not wanting to get tagged. They would tighten up a little bit or whatever. But not only did she went for it. She went for it. And it was like 14-5. She almost got him. And there's two reasons I bring that story up. One, because that just shows your heart and your fight and all that stuff. And two, and I hope your dad doesn't mind me bringing this up, but I remember that was the first time your dad seen you wrestling since you made that jump. Right, because that's about the time you were making the jump. You were very competitive at that point. You weren't getting beaten up by people anymore. It was you were there, and I remember looking over to him and seeing a look in his eyes, maybe a little teary eyed. I don't know. I don't want to really blow up his spot, but you could see how proud he was of you, of who you become, right? And you would handle yourself with class and all that stuff, and you're a great person, but you were a competitor. And I think your dad realized in that moment, like, holy cow, look at my little girl. And I remember as a coach being like, this is awesome. And that the same exact thing happened. She came off the mat. I remember going up to her and be like, Izzy, that was freaking awesome. You're so tough. She's like, well, coach, I wanted to win. was like, okay, you're right. You know, like, so I don't know if you remember that is, but that's great.
What does your dad call you?
El pollo loco.
Says it with such a straight face, like it's a normal thing.
Oh,
I
man.
mean, he yelled it during the cum laude ceremony, and one of his friends like yelled at him. It was really funny. I didn't even hear them; they were in the back of the auditorium.
El Pollo Loco.
But he yells it every time that he's there.
Yeah, we had a great journey with your parents. I mean, it was just great. The whole situation was just a great thing.
Well, you could tell her parents. Right.
I would always get, crap from the teachers at school. They'd be like, "What the heck are you doing to Izzy? She has a black eye again." Like,
I love it.
Tough. When you don't get pinned, your entire senior year.
And she was in some tough spots.
Situations, yeah. And came back and won those matches sometimes.
And came back and won those matches. She was never out of a match. Before I lose my train of thought, I want to ask this question because I think this is important for a lot of wrestlers to hear because it's something that you do such a good job at dealing with adversity. So your junior year, and I'll come up with a couple of stories that are just off the top of my head, and you could add to it, but these are things that I remember happening to you. Your junior year at divisionals, you rolled your ankle pretty good. You could have easily stopped. You taped yourself back up, went out there, competed. The next day, you wrestled in New York versus New Jersey, like girls match, when you easily could have said, "Hey, this is not for me. I'm banged up." But you saw a cool opportunity. You didn't want to miss it up because sometimes you don't get the opportunity again, and you took advantage of that. That was one off the top of my head. This year, there was a bunch, but one that stands out to me is Austin dual meet. You're wrestling a kid who knocked you out of sectionals last year, who took 5th in the section this year, which whatever, but you're 2-0 against him this year. A good competitor. You were sick. You were sick that day. And I did not know you were sick that day until after the match. And you didn't complain to me whatsoever. You went out there, you beat a kid that beat you the year before in comeback fashion. You know how to turn him at late in the match to get the win, which is so much heart. And I remember talking to you after, and you were like, I didn't feel that great, but I'm glad I got the win. And then I talked to Izzy a little bit about divisionals. I'm like, well, we're going to see that guy again at divisionals. And you're like, well, I feel really confident because I was sick today or whatever. And I didn't even know she was sick because she didn't even bring it up to me, right? Because she's a competitor. She had to go do her work. And the last one, you could talk on all three of these. These are the ones that are just coming on my top of my head. County finals. You're wrestling John Fortuna, who's a tough wrestler, guy we know very well. And he did nothing wrong. I think he had a leg in and he was trying to power half you and he was cranking and you wouldn't go. And, you went out of bounds or there was a stalemate. I forgot what the reason for the stoppage was, but there was some sort of stoppage. And you go like this. I see you go like that and you grimace with your face. And I'm like, are you okay? You need injury time? And you just shook your head no. And then you went right after him. And I know that shoulder continued to bother you from that point on. And a couple of times myself had to say, take this drill off or take that off. But never once did you come up to me and say, Coach, I can't do this because of my shoulder. There was no excuses built in. So, I mean, you could talk on any three of those experiences. I just want to know how you kind of get through how you deal with your adversity. And it was different from freshman, Izzy, right? So how did you end up, figuring all that out is my question.
I guess I just didn't want to stop. I love the sport too much and I just wanted to keep going. Like it's in the middle, like for the one where I rolled my ankle in the middle of the match and when I hurt my shoulder in the middle of the match, I think that was a potentially dangerous call actually, because my shoulder was like way not where it should be. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's the middle of a match. You can either keep going and do your best, or you can injury out, and I didn't want to do that. So just wanted to keep pushing through it, and then I'll deal with it later, especially with my ankle. And then I rolled it. Unfortunately, I hurt it the first match of divisionals, and I had 3 more. And I took more painkillers than I should have. But it's fine because nothing happened. So
say to the camera that we did not know about any of this because I didn't know you took anything.
Oh yeah, no. That wasn't on you. That was a decision I made.
With your parents, I hope.
Yes.
That's funny.
You're only supposed to take 2, so I just took 4. Not a big deal. And then for the next day, I just didn't want to like I had already committed to it. So, and it was only one match, so I didn't want to like let anyone down and not show up.
Commitment. Commitment's a big thing, right?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it too.
A lot of
I
it
don't
is.
I don't want to let anyone down.
Yeah.
So.
Another quote I heard today, and I should just steal these and not say and sound like really intelligent with these quotes, but belief and commitment equals success. You know, so for you is a big thing was belief, and you're still kind of getting over that, right? You're still fighting with that a little bit, and but everybody does. You're just vocal about it, which is better, right? People could act as confident as they want to be, but everybody has self-doubt. That's just a fact. Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the president and you act like you don't have any doubt, or you're the senator or you're an army leader. Everybody has doubt. This is how it is. And but you were vocal about it. We've talked about it. But I think your belief kind of grew as you went on and you worked through these things, and which ended up breeding the success and you know, and the commitment, right? If you believe in yourself enough and you love something enough, you're going to commit to it. If you could see a finish line at the end of the race, kind of thing, right? And I just want to know how. I have a couple more questions, so I don't want to go too long with it. But how did you start to get a little better in your belief system in yourself and believing in yourself more? Like, what started happening that made you feel? And I know you were still going through it towards sectionals, right? But it definitely got better year after year. At least as a coach, that's what I thought, and I thought I saw. What kind of happened in there?
Well, I cared more about it, so I actually started like working harder, which helped a lot. And then you guys helped a lot because I told you that I was having a problem with it, and you helped me with it, which I really appreciated. Especially before sectionals, that was like a big problem for me. But I mean, it also helps that I started doing a lot better. So then I started believing in myself more. The downside of that was that I actually, like, after divisionals, I felt like I could really do well at sectionals, and then I lost in the blood round, which I'm still disappointed about. But like, I actually started believing it probably way later than you guys started believing it. So I definitely think your belief in me and the belief of like the people around me that I could do it kind of built up my belief in myself, because you guys definitely believed in me before I believed in myself. So
Coach, I want, as much as this question to me, I'm still kind of getting over it myself, but the question we talked about earlier about her sectional tournament, you want to kind of elaborate on that a little?
Yeah, well, we knew that was a big match for you, and you didn't win the blood round. You didn't become all section, and we knew that was devastating to you. How did you handle that, and how did you unpack that later that night? And does it still bother you? Because I know I have matches in my head from when I wrestled and I competed that haunt me. They haunt me still to today. If I'm on a long drive, I think about them. And I don't think about the big wins that we had, but if those little losses that we lost along the way. How did you process that so far?
Honestly, I think I'm still like dealing with it. Well, the first thing I did was cry, to be perfectly honest.
Been there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I actually talked to Coach Tutor a lot about it. Like I told you that I was having trouble with it, and like it was bothering me still, and that helped, like, talking about it. And now it still like pops up, like when I'm working out or when I'm just not really doing much. It kind of pops up and it's like, haha, you lost. Okay. I guess I just kind of try and focus on the fact that, like, I worked really hard, and that's not one of the matches that bother me because I didn't do everything I could have. I just didn't perform as well as I wanted to, and as well as I probably could have, and I couldn't come back from it that time.
Yeah, I honestly think that they had a good game plan against you. They stayed away from you.
That's what I was going to say. They had a good game plan.
They had a good game plan against you. They knew that if you got close enough, you were going to throw that kid right on his back, and it was going to be over. He stalled. He whatever.
That kid
But-
could win 1 out of 10 times against Izzy, and that was the one. They would, you know, like that just happened. It just happened at the wrong time.
And that match doesn't define your career by any means. Doesn't define your career by any means. That was, you know, and then 2 weeks later, you go win a state title. Right? And another big match that I thought that was awesome was when you wrestled at Eastern States in the finals of Eastern States against the number 1 ranked female in the country who was tearing through wrestlers. She didn't have a close match, and you threw her. Right? Then you threw her out of bounds.
Out of bounds, so it didn't
She threw her
count.
out of bounds, and then she reversed her at the end of the match and got on top of her and was cranking her on a power half.
And whose body language was better?
Izzy's for sure.
If you didn't know the score, you would think that Izzy was winning that match. And, you know, that was really one of the most incredible matches that I saw.
Coach, I want to jump in. Oh, Izzy, you could speak on that a little bit. I'm sorry if you want to talk about that match, because that match was unbelievable. I mean, we want to win. We always want to win, but you know, you never probably as a freshman, you probably never would have thought you'd be competing with the number 1 ranked girl in the country. And you gave that girl, I think if you were a little more confident maybe in the first period, the match is even a little closer than the score was too. Like I think you felt at the end like, crap, I could hang with this girl. I could do this, you know?
It took a minute. Yep.
Yeah, the funny thing is I actually technically was teched in the last 4 seconds.
Because of me though, because I made you cut her to go for a throw.
Yeah.
I felt the momentum was going in the right direction. I'm like, hey, let's go for it. And you didn't get the throw, and she got the tech. She wouldn't have teched you otherwise. If I didn't say cut her, she wouldn't have teched you.
But that was like the smart thing to do, because what are you going to do?
Yeah, but I just want to make sure
from where I was.
That you didn't get teched because you got teched. You got teched because I said let her up and go for it.
I just think it's funny it was in the last 4 seconds.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that match really helped me, because for some reason it really helped me realize that like I could compete at a high level, because she has competed at a high level and I didn't do that badly against her. I even threw her, and like it was good for my confidence, so it was cool.
I just want to circle back, and then before we wrap it up, because I want to wrap it up with a little girls wrestling, and what Izzy thinks about the state of girls wrestling and all that stuff. But we'll get to that real quick. I just want to wrap up something Izzy said, or Coach Isabella and Izzy both were saying about the blood round match, and you know, I lost and blah blah blah. And if Coach recalls, like Khalid and Coach couldn't find me for a second either, right? And I wasn't like throwing a tantrum. I mean, I just moved aside and sat there, and it wasn't because of me, because I knew how hard you worked, and I really wanted that for you, and it stunk. But then, you know, I dust myself off like somebody else, like you dust yourself off, and Coach Isabella dusted himself off. And I started to think, and I just want to make sure that the people that are watching this realize that, you know, like Coach Isabella said, one loss does not define you. It probably helps you build into the right direction of where you want to go, right? Because, and I'm sure Coach Isabella says these same parallels, but if I didn't, you know, my junior year I did better in high school than my senior year. If my senior year didn't go as bad, maybe I wouldn't have that fire going into college, right? And then I was fired up in college, and then at the end of college, it didn't end the way I wanted to either. So maybe I wouldn't have took that same fire into coaching, and you know, everything makes you into who you are. So the way that you've been progressing in everything, whether it's academics, wrestling, just being a good kid, you're a good daughter, good friend, you know, great leader, all that stuff. That loss in the blood round is just a bump in the road that's going to be part of, you know, like we talked about with that Kevin Hart thing, your book, right? It's going to be part of your story. So it was one, you know, you didn't finish what you wanted to in that thing, but how did you respond to that, right? And knowing you, Izzy, you're going to respond with way greater things than being top 6 in the section. I mean, you know, winning the Con Ed Award, being the News 12 featured wrestler, getting that award in Section 1 is all better than coming in 5th in the section. Right. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I know you're a competitor, and you will think about it, and that's reality, right? Coach DeBellis will think about his college matches. I, to this day, think about my quarterfinals match at States when I was heavily favored to win that match, and I blew it, right? And it just happens. But I still get up every day and laugh and joke around with Coach DeBellis and get happy to have the opportunity to coach people like you. So I just wanted to, you know, make it clear to everybody that's listening that, you know, one match does not define Isabella Garcia's career. Her career, as long as me and Coach Isabellis are coaches at Greeley, her career will be looked at as one of the most influential and impactful careers in Greeley wrestling history. So, I don't know. no, that's not on that. Coach, go ahead. I see you get in there.
Well, the one thing that being around this sport for so long that you come to realize is that the majority of the time, for the majority of the people, it doesn't end the way you wanted it to end. And even the state champs, I mean, I don't know what Aaron could complain about, pinning the guy in 59 seconds, but sometimes you even, we are driven people through wrestling, and that's why we are who we are. We're never really that happy, but we're always working to be better.
And and Izzy said that earlier, and I think that's what's going to make me, and I'm sure Coach DeBellis and the whole Greeley Wrestling family, really excited to see kind of where you go. You're going to be doing some cool stuff. I know you're going to Michigan. Hopefully going to Michigan before. I know you're going to that school, but hopefully we're all going back to our schools and doing what we're supposed to be doing. But Izzy's the type of person in 10 years, I'm going to really be curious of where she's at. And I know it's going to be something really cool. And I'm like, wow, what she's doing.
Hopefully she's back with us coaching the all-girls team.
So that's a good transition.
She can coach the boys too. It's up to her.
So that's a good transition. And we'll wrap it up with some girls wrestling talk, because really people like Izzy and Abby Duke in Section 1 are trailblazers. Huh?
Ambassadors. Yeah, trailblazers, ambassadors.
They we're going to look back and people like Izzy being a captain of the team and doing all that stuff as a female and you don't want to say it's boys wrestling, but there's probably 10 girl wrestlers in Section 1, right? It's predominantly boys. What's your thoughts, maybe, how do we start this out? We'll have a couple of questions here, but what's your thoughts maybe on the state of girls wrestling right now, whether it's in New York or whatever it may be? Like, do you see it going in the right direction? Like, what's happening here? What do you think?
Well, it's growing. It's apparently the fastest growing sport in America, which is really awesome. And you keep seeing that different states have sanctioned it or are holding sanctioned state tournaments. Actually, my friend Selvi in New Mexico won her state tournament. They had a sanctioned state tournament in New Mexico this year, and she won it. It was really cool. It was actually the same day as my state tournament, which was unsanctioned. But it's also crazy to see that New York has way more girls wrestling like wrestling in high school than other states. But a lot of other states have sanctioned it. There are some states that had less than 100 girls wrestling in high school, and they still sanctioned it. New York has, I think the last number was like 400 or something like that. There's a lot. So,
I think they're very close to sanctioning it.
Well, they're doing a good job. I want to mention that guy, that runs that club, Venom, that you go to sometimes. Heath, yeah, nice guy. His daughters are really, really good. Yeah, they placed. I think they placed in Section 9, and Izzy was right there to do the same as them, and they're winning national tournaments, those girls. So that shows what kind of company you're in. But it seems like guys like him and some other people are in there. In New York City, PSAL, it's as you guys know, I coach TAF in the city in the spring, and I love coaching them. Coaching girls are different than coaching boys. I love coaching the boys. I like coaching the girls. It's just different. I find that the girls get the technique maybe a little quicker, and there's less maybe different silliness. I can't really explain it, but there's a lot of people doing the right things to kind of push girls wrestling into the right direction. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of blind to it until Izzy came around, and now that I see it, I really hope that they give these girls the fair shot that they deserve, because people like Izzy did great things wrestling boys, and in my own selfish way, I'm kind of happy with the way it went, so we could have Izzy on the boys team, winning matches for us and leading the way, and being a trailblazer and doing all these phenomenal things. But I also think it would be fair for the next generation of girls coming up that they get a fair opportunity to do what they're capable of doing, So
how are you going to make Lily wrestle, my daughter?
Oh, yeah.
She's not going to do it. She's out there.
I mean, if she wants to wrestle.
Exactly. If she wants to do it.
I feel like you have to want to wrestle to really do it.
How many times did I say it to her this year? I'm like, there's Izzy, Lily, you want to jump in? And she wouldn't. I think she got annoyed with me.
That was a funny thing my wife once said to me. She said, well, these kids, maybe, you get so upset because they don't commit and they don't do this and they don't do that. And I said, well, they have to. It's, and she said, well, maybe they're just doing it for their college resume. I go, are you kidding? go do something else. You don't want to wrestle if it's a little bit too involved to put on your college resume.
Yeah. Do you know, I forgot to ask this. I'm going to ask you this, and then I'm going to give my last little piece on you, Coach. Give your little piece on you, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
But we've been asking, Coach brought up in the last interview, and I think we kind of touched on it a bit, but what was your most proud moment as a Greeley wrestler? I'm just curious, because there's so many moments that make me proud and Coach Isabella's proud as coaches. I'm just curious for you, and there could be a couple, but what's that one moment that kind of stands out for you that you felt really good?
Like it's hard to pick just one. I think like something that's kind of constant in all of them is just all the constant support from my coaches and my teammates and everything. Maybe getting first at Pauling was really cool. And getting most outstanding wrestler there, that was awesome. And winning girls states this year when a bunch of the guys came to watch me, and my karate instructor came to watch me, and it was just it was awesome to just see all of the support that I had.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
there's a lot of moments that I really like.
Coach, so look, so we don't, because yesterday I was just blabbing on forever and ever. Coach, wrap up your thoughts on Iz. I'll wrap up my thoughts on Iz, and then Iz could have the final word, and then we'll sign out of here.
Yes. Well, my thoughts on Izzy is you are a godsend to our team. We needed you this year. We knew you were going to be the best wrestler on our team. We knew you were going to lead. We knew you were going to do great things. And we were super confident in that because we knew what was in your heart and it was in your brain. The only last question I have for you, who's your favorite coach? I'm just teasing you. I wouldn't ask you that. We all know who it is.
Oh my God. Well, it might not be me because technically I think I owe Izzy $5 because I'm going to tell you a quick story at Girl States. At Girl States, I don't know if you remember because Izzy had finished wrestling, Coach.
That was funny.
But I hung out because Hinda was getting her award too or something, one of the Taft girls. So I was still there. I was still there. And me and Coach Bells are actually two peas in the pod where we kind of leave everything everywhere. We don't know what the heck's going on sometimes. And I didn't know where my keys were. And I had a newborn at home, and all I needed to hear was Kara get upset that, like, what do you mean you're stuck in the Bronx? You don't have your keys. And everybody was leaving, and I couldn't find my keys anywhere. I'm like, crap. So I have, like, the 5 or 6 Taft girls and Izzy, and we're all sitting up in the stands. And I said, whoever finds my keys, I'll give $5 to. Because nobody was helping me. Like, Izzy was kind of helping me, but no, everybody, all the girls were like, whatever, Coach, we don't care. I said that. All of a sudden, they popped up, like, boof, quick. They're darting around the place. They're looking around. And the one person that's kind of cool and collective was Izzy, just like kind of looking around. And she found it. And like one of the other girls go, I found the keys. And kind of grabbed them from Izzy. And Izzy's like, okay, here, like whatever. And really, the long story short, Izzy, you found my keys. So I need to reward you for that.
You're going to end up jumping back in, Coach. But one question I have for you is, how did you like the dynamic of going down to Taft every once in a while and helping coach in the spring?
I really liked it. I really enjoyed that. It was awesome to see like a full team of girls wrestling together and being able to join them a little bit, even though I'm like not part of the team. It was awesome to just be like a part of the experience, I guess, and to work with a whole like a big group of girls.
It's the best. I mean, I love coaching them. And they're great kids too. I'm very close with them now, like I am with the Greeley kids, and just, good people. But you were part of the team. I don't know if Coach Isabella knew this, but when Izzy got promoted to her black belt, about 6 of the Taft girls showed up to support her. And I thought that was really cool. Like they probably were sick of me talking about Izzy all the time because I was always like, Izzy does this, why don't you do that? Like like a little like she works so hard, she could do it, you could do it. But Izzy is such a likable person. Such a kind-hearted person that it's impossible not to like her. And I think that was the same with the Taft girls. They were like, oh, Izzy wants us there. I'm there. Izzy for Izzy, of course I'll be there, I
thought it was a great dynamic to have Taft, Greeley. I think what you have done, Coach, is unbelievable. And I think that Izzy benefited from it. And I think that, everybody benefited from Izzy.
Oh, everybody. And Izzy, I think, might have the same mindset as me on this. And I think you kind of do too, Coach, is where – people could compliment us 3 all the time, but it's what we love to do, right? Like, in a way, it's almost it's my selfish needs of helping people. I enjoy that. That makes me feel good to help people, right? I like to do that. maybe that's a gift for us that we'd like to do things like that. Some people might not like to do things like that, but I don't understand that life, to see somebody like Izzy do better and see like the Taft girls do better and improve makes me feel better, and hopefully the lessons that we go through and the lessons we learn as coaches too, that's going to help everybody along the way. But I just want to wrap up with you is, I've said it to you before, but I'll say it to you on this, that there's not many wrestlers, if any, that I'm more proud of coming through Greeley. You did a phenomenal job. Your change from a freshman to a senior year is unbelievable. How those guys on the team looked up to you were unbelievable. And how you were able to connect with people is unbelievable too, I think. There's a lot of great wrestlers that came through our program and great leaders, but that team loved you. That team loved you because of who you were and are. And I would joke with them and always tell them that Izzy was my favorite, like in jest. But if I would ask them who their favorite was, they would say Izzy. It was like a running joke we kind of had going on. Vinny would say something silly, I'd shake my head and look at it and be like, Izzy, I'm stuck with these guys next year. This is what you're going to do to me, seriously. But it's all out of love, right? We love those guys. They love you. But, you can't fake something like that, right? You can't fake that feeling that those guys have for Izzy as that's their leader, that's their captain. That's Izzy. And they're willing to go to bat for her any day of the week, as are we. Last thing I want to say with Izzy is she's trying to do some interesting things. We're going to push it. She's going to try to start to get some girls wrestling at Michigan, where they have a club right now. We have a connection there with Yusuf Amida being at the RTC, the Regional Training Center. We're going to get in contact with Coach Bourmet, who's the head coach there, and we're going to try to get, Michigan to work their way to a Division I sport for girls. And it's going to be a tall order, especially with Corona going on and all this. But the crazy thing about Izzy, and this is the last thought I'll say, and I said that to Izzy, I'm like, yeah, I'll help. Izzy came up with this thought. This has nothing to do with me, right? But we were talking about it. And I was like, that's a great idea. I'm all for it, but it's going to be a little hard with like the climate of the world right now with, adding a college sport with, NCAA sports having trouble with things getting canceled and whatever. And Izzy, just being Izzy, was like, well, I might not get it next year, but if I could get it by my senior year, that's a great thing too. So it's like that work girl, not work men, work girl mindset. She's ready to put the work in and for something she loves, and that's inspiring. So, that's all I got. Izzy, you got anything you want to wrap this up with, or I don't know.
I mean,
the last word.
I just want to wrestle. So I just want to get back out there. But for next year's team, I would suggest you commit as soon as you can, because I really committed in the middle of my sophomore year, and I wish I had committed earlier, because I feel like I would be better for it if I had committed a little earlier. So commit, do your best, and I'm gonna miss being part of Greeley Wrestling. And
You're always
I'll be back.
Yeah,
if you can't get rid of me that easily.
If you go to Michigan in the fall and you don't come back to Greeley wrestling practice during winter break or something like that, me and you're going to have a serious issue.
You can't get rid of me that easily.
No, we don't want to get rid of you. There's some others I might, but not you. We're super proud of you. Can't say it enough. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but, can't be more proud of you for everything you do. Coach Isabella's the same. Me and Coach talk about this off air often. Me and David Schreiber talk about this off air often. Wendy Ferreira reached out to me after your sectional run and was so inspired by you. Steve Walk was so inspired by you at Counties. These people that had sons that have done unbelievable things themselves and that we have talked to are inspired by you. So that says a lot. I think you should, don't forget the blood round match, because you need a little drive, right? It's always good to have a little drive, but think about the other stuff more, because
be proud once in a while.
Perfect. Be proud.
Polio Loco. It's the last words.
Oh, wait. Oh, I'm going to say the last words and I'm going to stop recording.
Sure. I guess I'll just repeat what I said before. I just want to get back to wrestling. So as soon as wrestling comes back, let me wrestle.